on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Party Chat, our Q&A for the MinnMax community. Everybody at that MinnMax Council tier. If you're at that MinnMax Council tier, you can call in, podcast with us directly, ask any question under the sun. This is a place to get geeky, to go behind the scenes of all things MinnMax. No question is off the table. Jump in, please. Every once in a while, we get some really good but really specific questions on the MinnMax Show podcast. And it's like, this is more of a party chat thing. It's a little too navel-gazy, inside the system, behind the scenes stuff. And so that's, I love those types of questions at Party Chat. So thank y'all for being here. We have Janet Garcia is going to be joining us in a bit. Also, Haley McLean is going to be joining us in a bit. Janet has had a very exciting week. Oh my God. She's jumping in here right now. Hello, Janet.
Hello.
Oh, welcome to Party Chat. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. We kicked off the show without you. Hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Can you tell from the sound of my voice when we're recording and when we're not?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I think so. We're recording already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a slight, I don't know, like a feeling of like caring a little bit more. Is that the sensation?
You talk a little slower.
Slower. Wait, I talk faster off mic?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
You talk fast, I feel like.
I do. Janet, we have that in common.
You're like, yes. Yes.
People were talking in the Discord today about, or over the weekend, about like what speed they listen to their podcasts at and stuff. And there's some people who are like, I don't know how you listen to a podcast that has Ben and Janet on it at over 1.25 speed. Like that seems like it would break my brain. And to be fair, I think it's doable. Like I've listened to myself, I've listened to Janet at 1.75 speed, which is my podcast default. But yeah, every once in a while, I try to remind myself to slow down. And I don't do it that often or that well.
My struggle is I do talk way faster than you naturally. So this is me slowed down, which I get. I need to like, I acknowledge when people are like, hey, it's a bit too fast still. But I'm like, this is me slowed down. I get it's not slowed down enough, and it could always be slowed down more. But
yeah.
Like,
although I'm listening to you right now, Janet.
This is the slowed down. Yes.
I think you're speaking slow right now. I feel like
I'm speaking so slow. I'm trying so hard.
No, you're doing great. But the beauty is, and I'm not pointing finger at you. This is about myself as well, because I've talked about it in the past about like, especially dealing with anxiety. Like I just had a real refreshing moment at a certain point when I realized like, oh, I talk fast, and a part of that's just being so anxious. And I've gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, but just realizing, oh, I can talk half as fast, and no one will be confused by it. You know, no one's going to call me out in public if I'm at like a checkout aisle. I can talk to the cashier half as fast as I should, and then it just feels like you're you know, in the Matrix. Yeah, you can think so much more. I mean, it's just the easiest way to relieve anxiety socially, for me at least, is
why would I want to think more?
Because you can, you know, plan out what you're going to say before you say it. Those types of basic functions, you know, it just feels like I'm playing Smash Brothers in slow motion. You know, it's like I can just be more deliberate and specific. It's a nice vibe, nice tone. Hey, Lee McLean, welcome to the show.
Why are we talking about anxiety? Talking really fast?
Yeah. Welcome to the show. Please, we got so much to get through.
Yeah, hurry up.
Trufo says that they miss you being in Minnesota.
Oh, that's very nice. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. You got back okay?
Flight got to canceled on the way back, and then the last flight we sat on the tarmac for like 3 hours. And I was so sure it was going to get canceled. It wasn't because of weather. It's because of Air Canada's planning. They told us on the intercom, they were like, oh, we have a weird thing with bags. We just want to make sure everyone's bags are getting to the right place. And then we sat there for 3 hours. So, like, tell me whose bag with, like, a artifact, like the Declaration of Independence or some crap. It was, like, taking forever to get put on the plane. And when we took off, people, I remember the plane was like, oh, like, you could see everyone was just excited that we were actually going somewhere.
Oh, God, that's such a relief.
Other than that.
All right, well, good. Yeah, thanks.
I finished Steve Stars in the airport. That was good.
Oh, right on. Oh, perfect. Yeah, we can talk about that more in the 210s and all that fun stuff. Which, yeah, as a reminder, I sent out a Patreon post for everybody, but just so y'all have a frame reference for what's going on here, we are recording the Game of the Year debates, this coming weekend is when it starts. So technically, if you're at the Backstage Pass tier, you can watch it live or watch the unedited archive, as long as you don't spoil it for everybody else. But we're going to be recording that on the 16th, which is Saturday. And then on Monday the 18th and Tuesday the 19th is when we're doing the MinMax Awards, which are the categories. And then jumping into the 210s debate, part 1 and part 2. And so those are going to be trickling out for everybody else in the normal cadence if you're not at the Backstage Pass tier. So we will have podcasts rolling throughout the holiday break going through the first week of January. And then I guess the next new episode of the podcast where we cover current events again, is that the best way to put it? Will be on, I guess January 11th is when we'll be jumping back. And that's also when we'll be sharing the community's picks because thanks to the mods, we're going to have a whole system again for you all to submit basically your own 210s, the Hive Minds 210s, and we'll go through and read all those on the podcast for January 11th. But I forget the exact deadlines for when that's coming up, but the mods can jump in and help, so stay tuned to the announcements channel to see all that fun stuff.
I'm so curious what the community's top 10 will be.
It's always interesting. It's always, slightly different than you think, but it's fun to see how different it is from ours and everything like that. Let's see, Party Chat. I mean, I guess last week I wasn't on it, and so special shout out again to everybody who donated during the Give to the Max stream. I wasn't able to speak last week, but I'm slowly recovering. And that was an incredible stream. It was really fun to edit together like the highlight reel, which is up on YouTube now if you want to see just the weirdest moments. But I don't know, Haley, part of me feels like out of the context of us losing our minds over 25 hours, like just jumping to somebody just being obnoxious and silly, which for us is like at 4 a.m. after our minds have shattered. But in the highlight reel, it's just like, this just looks like an insane person at this point.
I was actually surprised on how coherent I looked because I went back to part 3 because I never got to see any part 3 stuff because the VOD went down.
Yeah.
Take on me or whatever. No, and I remember at 6 a.m. I glanced at like the MacBook's clock and my brain was like, oh my God, like you need to like bring it together. So I was like dancing a lot of the last bit just to get like blood flowing to my brain.
Yeah.
I feel like in my chair, I was just like shaking my head around. And there was a couple times where I would just turn and look at Leo because I think Leo, me and Leo were stayed up the longest, Ben, and then I think I was after you, and then Leo.
Yeah.
And Leo was also hurting, and I turned to look at him in his face. The green was streaking down his face, and he was just like, you could tell it was like running at 10%, and our jokes weren't even jokes. Like I was listening back to them, we're just like, haha, goo goo gaga. Like we don't even say anything coherent at one point. We're just like laughing at nothing.
Yeah.
And then when I went to shave your head, I don't know if you listened back to what Leo says when I'm gone and shaving your head at like 7 a.m.
No, I didn't.
He's so funny. What does he say? He's just like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, he's like barely awake. And then he's just like, oh man, bacon narwhal, ha ha ha. Like it doesn't even have it, like he's not even thinking of anything, he's just talking. It was amazing. You should go back and just listen to
I have
Leo
to check
there.
that out. Yeah, it is fun to like scrub through like, oh, when I ran to go get a pizza, like what happened, like because I just walked back in and you're drawing Blumpo's backstory on the blackboard. I'm like, oh, this is probably a wish. It's like, okay, I think that was from a wish. But yeah, I mean I think late at night we should have done like another round of Secret Shuffle, like that dancing game or something, because that was a rough go. But
the gummies worked. I mean, my heart jump started when we ate those.
Yeah, thanks to somebody wishing for us to eat those weird caffeine gummies, but I didn't partake in that sick tradition. I was thinking about, first of all, a couple things that really made me laugh throughout the stream that I wasn't able to convey. Like, I was hesitant to even get the batteries and get Leo's stupid electrifying hot potato thing working. But honestly, it's because I didn't know what it was. It was just like, I was so tired. And then like Leo and Dan are like, go find a small screwdriver and get batteries. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't know what that crap is. And then realizing that it was a hot potato that it could electrocute you. I'm so glad I did that because like, still it makes me laugh so much in the video. And then seeing it live was when you're throwing around that hot potato that electrocutes you, and Dan Reichert and Jeff Cork are wearing the baby masks, and Dan chucks it and it hits baby mask Jeff Cork right in the face, and he just pretends like he's dead as a baby. Really got me. Like, that is one of the funniest things. And also, it's so stupid, but later on, this is late at night, when somebody donated to have an improv session where Dan was Solid Snake talking to one of Adam Sandler's characters, and Jeff Cork chose as the Adam Sandler character for Solid Snake to talk to. He chose the character from Punch Drunk Love, which is this funniest choice if you're Jeff Cork. I'm like, all right, you wanted a wacky Adam Sandler character? Here you go. And then it was just him being like, my sisters are mean to me.
My sisters are B.
Yeah, my sisters are the B words. That absolutely killed me. And I don't think I was on mic at the time, but I was just crying laughing at that idea of that Adam Sandler character being it. And Janet, I promise we'll stop talking about Gift of the Max soon, since you weren't able to be here in the studio with us. I promise.
Hey man, all that content, you gotta get the most out of it. You know?
Okay. But it's fun, and I'm too into this, that idea of just like, how do you generate fun moments and incentives for people to donate? And if you think about it, it is such a weird idea of like Blumpo, when he came in for the first time, that was such a blast of energy, and it was
electric.
It was so funny
in the air in the studio.
Right, but then try and reverse engineer that, Haley. Like, that comes because we did a poll way earlier in the year, and people voted for a show starring a made-up children's entertainer called Blumpo. People at the Backstage Pass voted for that, and then we only did that because I was talking about children's shows, I think, and probably just because of having a baby, we're talking about children's entertainment. So like, just if you try and recreate that magic of Blumpo coming in and being a blast of energy, it's like, it's so many stupid little things in the past had to line up. And then also the fact that, look, I'm not going to...
He has lore.
He has lore, and that he died because maybe a certain person in the MinMax crew doesn't want to play him anymore because it's so draining and exhausting. Like, just so many things had to line up just right for that blast of energy. And then the fact that people donated a total of $1,000 to have Blumpo on the stream, like, that is just the type of thing you cannot plan, but it's just such a godsend when you're trying to get energy and get donations rolling, just to have somebody quote unquote new coming through. Or like, you know, I guess I haven't even talked to my wife about it, but it just makes me laugh so much that like my wife, when I assigned her with running to the grocery store and buying stupid food, the fact that she bought a Christmas tree made out of butter, and like that led to like some of the funniest, weirdest moments was the butter tree. And like, how do you predict that? How do you cultivate a stream?
Hair on it the whole night.
Right. Like, you just can't figure out what's going to be a recurring theme.
It was so gross, Janet. I didn't have to eat it, but so many people had to eat that butter.
Yeah, I saw it getting passed around, and
yeah,
like, this is how we get pandemics to start.
Yeah, you think of like, you know, when else in your life do you take a big bite of butter and it's like, I guess maybe there's a big chunk like on a waffle or on some pancakes or something, but I cannot convey to you how gross it is to take a mouthful size chunk of butter and just chew it off of a butter tree. I don't recommend it to anybody.
I was impressed you guys actually ate the butter. I thought you kind of bite it and be like, ha ha ha, and like spit it out in a napkin, but you all swallowed the butter.
I feel like Ben especially is really down to eat like really gross food.
Thank you so much. So, where does that come from?
Surprised there wasn't a spicy challenge.
Well, we got away from that.
Is that kind of risky?
Well, we got away from it. We did a lot of that at Game Informer with the ghost peppers and stuff. But it just like got to the point of like, you're kind of taking somebody out of commission. Like, it can be...
Oh my God, remember when JV ate that ghost pepper?
Exactly.
Like, I still remember that. That's how bad that was.
Yeah. So the idea of like, okay, we only have so many people on the table and this person is in so much pain and they're going to be in the toilet the rest of the night. It's like, it's just not worth it, even though it is funny to watch people do that. I did want, because I think a good middle ground is wasabi, where it's a blast of intensity, but it goes away really quickly. And so they didn't have any at the grocery store. They were sold out, apparently. But that was going to be on the table. Obviously, keep the feedback rolling for what segments you all liked. If you're able to watch that stream archive, what games you think we should bring back next year. Like, I was really happy that Secret Shuffle thing was fun. And then, like, Astro Duel 2. Shout out to those developers because they made a demo just for us. To play on that stream, which is incredible. So Astro Duel 2. It's important to say the name of the game. But you can wishlist it on Steam. It's coming out later, I believe, in 2024. But please, keep the feedback rolling for that entire thing. We have somebody. Let's see, Patrick Castillo. They say, hey, how was the reception of the donation that you provided for the foster kids? You mentioned that their goal was to raise $1,000, and then we gave them $57,000 more. So this amount was a total surprise for them. This might have already been part of your plan. Give to the max update. That's a great question.
Yeah, what'd they say?
This is a great question, Haley. I'm not pointing fingers at nobody. I haven't heard from them. So what they have that they posted on Instagram, to be fair, they like insta'd our gram or whatever when we posted about the update and we tagged them in it, and they reposted it and they said, wow, we're blown away. So we know that they're blown away, but now it's a matter of like,
They're composing themselves. They need
maybe
a week or so.
Yeah. It's like I expect they're going to send an email at some point just to be like, who are you? How did this happen? So that'll be satisfying, and I'll relay all that stuff to y'all. But we know they got it, and so that's
If
a
we
nice
don't
first
get that
step.
email, what was this all for?
Janet, this is the gross part of me. I mean, genuinely, I was talking to some folks a little bit about it this weekend about like, I don't know what I want. Like it's a weird thing. Like I don't want them to come kissing our ass, but I think
Validation. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
you do.
I want to have that email of like, holy crap, we're so confused how this is possible. Like that is something I want, rather than like, thank you. What do we have to do? Thank you. But it's like, I think I want more than anything like, hey, this is how the money's being used. Like, and maybe that'll take a while before they know. So maybe that's what they're waiting for and stuff. But that's, I think, would be the most helpful for the community is like, hey, here's directly where your money went, which is nice. Let's see. We have Steve Evolution has a quick question for y'all. The Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween film or Christmas film?
Halloween.
Christmas.
Oh, that's the question. I thought they were just describing the film. Halloween.
Okay. All right. Philly Eat Steak. What's your system for managing a giant list of game codes that are across multiple systems? I'm always curious how you make sure someone doesn't get stuck with a code they can't use. Great question. I mean, we shipped out about 300 codes for people who donated during the Gift of the Max stream. And so you'd be horrified to know it's just a giant Google Doc where whenever we get codes, I just throw it in the giant Google Doc. And we also just shipped out codes to everybody who jumped up to the Backstage Pass tier. So you can still do that if you want to jump up to the Backstage Pass tier and watch the Game of the Year debates early. We still have Xbox codes to give away. So thanks to everybody who jumped up to try that new system. But
I worked on my partner. He jumped up.
Did he really?
Yeah, you got him.
Got him.
You got him.
Good. So we sent out all those codes. So thanks to everybody who jumped up that tier for those codes. But yeah, we just have a Google Doc and then I just write the name of the system next to the code. It's pretty barbaric and simple, but please forgive us. But we literally have hundreds and hundreds of codes in there. And it's nice to get to the Give to the Max stream where it's like, all right, we can unload this archive that we've collected throughout the year. So we're kind of down to bare minimum for codes, except for Xbox codes. We still have a ton of those. But I have some codes for Trivia Tower, which we should mention is coming up December 20th. And it's going to be another crossover event. We're going to be competing against another community. And I'll leave that secret for now, but try and guess which gaming community we'd want to go up against. If it's a hint, I'll let you know this is going to be our toughest competition yet based on the size. So good luck to everybody competing in Trivia Tower. But we have codes for, oh my gosh, let's see. Let me jump in here and actually. Oh, we have codes for Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora. We have codes for Super Crazy Rhythm Castle, which Haley played.
That game was so fun.
Yeah, I played more of it.
Too.
I played more of it this week. You played it too, Jenna?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. All right, let's talk about it on the podcast this week because I played more too. And then we have codes for SteamWorld Build as well. So we have a ton of codes there to give out to winners in Trivia Tower coming up December 20th. That's Wednesday evening for everybody. It is not an Easy Allies rematch, Fred. It is not. It is not an Easy Allies rematch. But yeah, so the code system, shout out to my wife again for helping out, for sending out all those codes to donors because it does take a while to like send those DMs individually because we're sending out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those things. And just for an update on where we're at for everything, all of the auction items have been shipped out that were here. There's still, I'm not sure if iM8bit has shipped out their items yet. I've relayed everybody's info to where it needs to go. So everything in my house is taken care of, and I'll be following up with all the other kind of external auction items for stuff like, the Clive Rossfield date or the Hi-Fi Rush bundle, stuff like that. If you won those, stay tuned. They should be on the way, but I have a very thorough spreadsheet for all that stuff for tracking to make sure that we're taking care of everybody who donated.
And the fridge got delivered.
The fridge got delivered, yes. Shout out to the person picking up that fridge. Also, I mean, we have Haley, I forget their last name, but they're joining us on the podcast this week. They donated $1,000 to be part of the MinMax Show podcast this week, so they'll be on the show.
Yay,
I'm very excited to talk to her. And Haley's forever. Let's see. I think that's it for those community questions. Kath, I see ya. Let's get to your question here, and then Janet, we surely need you to talk about your big trip, and then we have a surprise at the end of the show as well. So stay tuned if you're in the mood for something spooky. But hello, Kath, what's happening?
Hey, I'm just jumping in to say that today is the last day if you want to join the MinMax Secret Santa.
Ah, right on. Good call. And how do you go about doing that?
You go on Discord. You can go on the MinMax channel holiday, and it's pinned on the top. And it's go through our website. Tomorrow is gonna do the draft, and you're gonna know who you picked. And it can be international. Some can send international. Some decide not to. It's okay.
Right on.
And yeah, just sending love within the community.
That's very sweet. Yeah. Speaking of community updates, before I forget, we also have the MinHacks Game Jam. All those demos. We're going to be streaming that. Haley, I know you weren't in the meeting at this point, but the plan is to stream that tomorrow on Tuesday at 3 p.m. We're going to be going through and checking out all those games that you all made in the MinMax Community Game Jam. I'm so excited to see those. It was so fun last year, so I'm definitely looking forward to that in a huge way. And yeah, shout out to everybody for lining up these fun community events in the Discord there. It's very, very sweet to see, Kath. So thanks for helping out the holiday spirit there.
Always.
And while we're doing updates, I mentioned in the Patreon post that we have an extra big episode of New Show Plus, or an extra big poll coming up for New Show Plus, because it's the last episode of New Show Plus for the year, everybody. Last episode of Party Chat and the last episode of New Show Plus for the year. And so we have a ton of options. This is the most stacked version of New Show Plus ever. So if you're at the $10 tier, you can vote for this. The plan is you have to choose between Box Art Trivia, Episode 2, more game trivia. There's a show, this is before I've come up with the genius titles for these shows. These are placeholder names, keep in mind. But we have a show called Shopping at Target for Haley, where she can't shop at Target in Canada, so we're going to guide her around and show what it's like to shop at Target. We have a show called Basement Bug Hunt, where we're going to scour my basement looking for the bug from the Give to the Max stream. We have the option.
That's a name, Ben.
I'm sorry, Bug Hansen. Bug Hansen, please.
Thank you.
We have Lego Fortnite. We can play that together. We have us playing God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, that roguelike. We can see how that goes. We have a rematch of Sarah versus I in creating gingerbread houses in Gingerbread House War, Bidding House War. I got to remember what the name of that show was. We have us playing Lethal Company as an option. We have us writing new Christmas songs and releasing a Christmas album as an option, or us watching a tour of E3 2000 that the Video Game History Foundation just put up. So those options are all going to be in the poll this week in the biggest New Show Plus ever. So if you want to jump up to that Backstage Pass tier, that'd be great. We'd love to see it. All right, let's get these, because I want to unpack Janet's whole trip, but let's get these questions here first. Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. What would you like to talk about?
Just curious, have you checked out Fortnite Festival?
Great question. Kyle, I'm biting my tongue. I have, and I'm very eager to talk about it on the podcast this week.
All right, that's okay. All right, do you want to talk a little bit about the idea that they might bring back plastic instruments?
I mean, you can talk about whatever you want. This is your show. Yeah, I think that's a fascinating concept. Would you? Here's my question, Kyle. Do you think they would allow for local multiplayer support? Because Fortnite, can you do split screen Fortnite?
No.
I don't think so, no.
All right, then the odds of them doing local multiplayer seems thin, right? So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. That seems key to that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think like the closest thing to me is like Guitar Hero Live kind of was like, that was 2-player max, so
right.
It didn't really work out. So maybe that's just not the thing going forward.
Yeah. But out of anything going on in Fortnite, I am most curious to see how that evolves for sure. I think it's a fascinating conundrum, and I'm fascinated by Harmonix doing it.
if it came down to it, would you buy a Fortnite themed plastic instrument though, just to play the game with a fake guitar?
I still have all my PS3 instruments, so if I'm craving Rock Band, I'll just go play Rock Band. But if they're leaning into it as hard as it seems like they are, then yes, probably. If they have local multiplayer support, I think I would.
All right, and then before I go, I just kind of wanted to just spit out my hype for Thrasher.
Thrasher, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I saw the company's name, so it's Brian Gibson who worked on Thumper, and I think the other guy's name is Mike Mendel. Their studio's name is Puddle, which, the prior company was Drool, so I kind of like that it's,
Oh, that's
the
cool.
successor to Drool is Puddle. And the other thing is, you were kind of wondering on the podcast of what kind of game this is. I see Mike Mendel's work mentioned Rock Band VR and Fantasia Music Evolved.
Oh,
And looking at it, it looks like it could be like a little bit of a follow-up to Fantasia.
that's a weird game to follow up, but that's really cool. I love that someone's going to Fantasia for inspiration. That's awesome. Cool. All right, and that was
Yeah.
Thrasher. Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast last week. But sweet. Thanks so much, Kyle. Thanks for joining.
It was great. Happy New Year, guys.
Hey, Happy New Year
Or
to
I guess
you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
That's perfect. And Kath, did you have something else you wanted to talk about as well, or did you just want to talk about the holiday gifts?
Just the gifts.
All right, love it. Thank you, Kath. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Kath.
All right, Janet.
Yeah.
You've traveled the world. You've seen it all. Tell us all about it. Okay, you were at the Game Awards. Maybe that's the most exciting place to start, eh?
Sure.
How was it in the room?
Yeah, it sucked.
It
It
sucked?
was awful.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, I
What?
don't know anyone who enjoyed the show because
What are
of
you
how they
talking
handled
about?
Yeah, because of how they handled the awards. Like, it really put a damper on the whole evening, and it was kind of dark, to be honest. But obviously, the announcements are exciting. The ones that you can remember because they all sort of blend together when you're there for 4 hours. But yeah, I mean, there's always been issues with the Game Awards. Like, it's always been a trailer ad fest. But I feel like this year, more than all the other years, it felt really, really like, what are we doing here? The
Okay,
performances were cool, but
performances were great.
Yeah.
I still really love the show. I understand the internet is melting down, talking about how outrageous it is. It seems like it's just Keeley rebounding way too hard from the Chris Judge thing
Yeah.
last year, right? Where he talked for like 10 minutes and it sucked, and he needed to get the hell off that stage. And then it's just them clamping down. Isn't it just a sweet spot? Like, give devs a minute to accept the reward, focus on the awards a little bit more, and then we can make progress here. But the idea of like, the show has to have the big reveals to get the attention for anybody to care in any way. And so the more I listen to other podcasts and gaming podcasts talk about it, the more I just am screaming, like, you don't just want a pure awards show, everybody. Those exist and you don't pay attention to them and you don't watch them. Like, having the fusion is the way to go. And naturally, they should skew it farther from where it's at now towards respecting devs and giving them at least a minute to talk while they accept the awards and not just rapid fire through those things. But I don't know, Janet, I am stunned by the level of pessimism and kind of cynicism about that awards show based on that. Like, here's my point, Janet, and you can feel free to jump in and call me Nate whenever you want. It's just like, what you want the developers to feel the award, to get up on stage, feel the warm reception, to feel like they have conquered the world in this moment for making an incredible game. Absolutely. I feel like a minute, you can do that and you can thank who you want to thank. At the same time, then it's like, we just want to hear more from the developers. Like, I'm more angry at PR for not allowing for more interviews with the developers of some of these big games than I am at Keeley for not giving them more time on stage. Like, if they're on stage talking for 5 minutes, like, I'm not going to get insight about the game. They're not going to feel like they're...
I mean, you're not going to get insight about the game at the award show in general. Like,
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what do you want from like longer speeches? Like, other than giving them the chance to thank everybody they want to thank, like, how long should it be?
I'd probably just look at other award shows that feel like a reasonable length and replicate that. I don't know offhand if a minute is enough. I don't know if like 90 seconds would be more appropriate.
yeah.
I feel like 3 is probably the max you can really go. Because again, sometimes there's multiple people. Sometimes there's a translator. I mean, I think the fact that, someone tallied up the literal, there's been a lot of charts floating around, but for literal time, the total speech time was 10 minutes
Right.
for like the entire show. And like, I get, oh, it's not exciting to like watch someone get an award, but like,
Correct.
it is an award show. And I get, oh, well, we need eyes on it. But also, you built it that way. You made it cost what it costs or whatever. You want to hit a certain margin. And now, like, again, you designed it that way. Like, and I get like, oh, well, more people see it that way. But if the goal is for getting more people to see it so that more people can honor the developers, but then in that show you're not honoring the developers, what are we doing here? How is this not just Winter E3? And if you want Winter E3, that's fine, but then just be Winter E3. Like, I've never personally been into the, oh, what's the big reveal? And like, sometimes there are big stuff, like, oh, Kojima's
Yeah.
thing, sure, I guess.
I mean,
but,
there's
like,
a ton of reveals in that show. I think it was one of the
I don't
biggest
think
ever.
most of them were that big though. Like, there's stuff I liked. Like, I liked Don't Nod. I'm excited for like the EA Originals thing, but it's like, you know, it's just weird. Like, no other show is like this. It's so heavily skewed. You know, Future Class got these like really terrible seats, which like was also a thing. Like, there were so many things to be down on from that show for me. I mean, I still enjoyed it, like attending because I got to see everybody.
You
and,
said
like,
it sucked.
I mean, yeah, like going like the show itself, I don't think was good. Like, I don't think it was a good show.
So
That's just my-
mind-boggling to hear. I cannot fathom that idea of going to that and being like, ah, it sucks. Like,
I mean, well, I don't know. Like, like that is what it is. Like, I get like it's exciting to, I guess, see a trailer for something, but I don't know. Like, the energy was negative for me, and
Right.
from a lot of the people I talked to about it, and a
Yeah.
lot of teams. Like, it is still cool that they had like a moment, but a lot of people didn't even get that moment. We rapid fired through like 5 categories
Right.
in a row. And like, I liked being there because I liked connecting with my peers. I liked talking to the developers. You know, I like that aspect of it, but I didn't feel good leaving there because of how it went down. And I didn't feel that way last year about the show. So I do feel like it was different this year than it's been previous years.
yeah, they definitely need to recalibrate where they're at and focus more on the developers and give them more time and all that stuff. But it's like, I don't need to see the esports coach of the year up on stage. And like, it is a tough thing of like, best RPG, they didn't get to go up on stage. But it's
Yeah.
like, is that a matter of Keighley just knowing that Baldur's Gate was going to win? So therefore, like, we don't want to make it redundant. But then again, it is kind of fun, a fun part of the awards show to have the developers up there like, we won again. What else do we say, you know?
And I think too, to your point of like, oh, I wish the developers were there to like talk. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to get interest. And I get it. That is what it is. Like, Keighley's not, you're not going to do hardcore journalism on stage
No,
in front of a
there's
lot. Like,
nothing
that's
to
like, you're not
say.
going to get real answers.
Right.
Like, they're there to be like, and what can we look forward to? I mean, I can't wait to show you. Like, that is what it is. So it's like, do I need that time to be more extended too? Like, there's so many spots where you could cut down. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. That's the part that was unfortunate. But obviously, like, you know, it was cool hearing from the devs that did get to talk.
Right. Haley, did you watch the awards?
Yeah, I watched them.
What'd you think?
I resonated with Janet in that I want it to be more dev stuff. I want it to be more just like, I think it was Jacob who said on the last podcast, it feels like we're looking ahead to 2024 instead
Right.
of appreciating 2023.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like the whole point of the show is look what we did. Look at this great year. As it's like a time capsule, because as soon as we're done this year, no one cares anymore. It's the people who are going to be Googling 2023 Game Awards, like what happened that year? Like,
Right.
but they're just going to hear about what's coming out in 2024. It's kind of like, and I get that he needs to pay the bills to put the lights on to have the show and stuff and all that, but it definitely felt like, and another thing that Kelsey and Jacob were talking about too is like they felt embarrassed
Yeah.
watching
Yep.
it, because I had my little sister over who likes games. She likes Fortnite. Like, our joke was like, don't worry, Emma, there'll be a Fortnite trailer coming up. So she watched like the whole thing with me. But it was like, yeah, like some of it just kind of read as like trying to impress people like my sister who know who Jordan Peele is,
Right.
or Timothy Chalamet or something. So she did perk up when she saw those people because she likes Hollywood and movies and TV more than games. But like, she'll never watch this. So why are you trying to pique her interest? You know what I mean? Like, I had to force her to watch this with me. Whereas me sitting there who knows games and wants to watch the Game Awards, I felt embarrassed that those, like, she was like, why is Timothy Chalamet here? And I didn't have an answer for her. I'm like, I don't know.
But at least, I mean, that's something for them to grab onto of like, oh, if you are being dragged by your partner to, or a loved one to watch this show, it's like, oh, there's Matthew McConaughey. Sure, I guess that's interesting. And I just feel like it's so much better than it used to be. in terms of just shoehorning celebrities into this whole thing. And I don't know. I always just feel like Keeley's trying to make an entertaining show. You know, like doing their best.
so
To
easy
make an
for me
entertaining
to-
show that's 4 hours long.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do, but they're trying to do it. And
I would argue you can't, and I would argue he hasn't.
I enjoy watching it every single year. I'm a stupid simpleton, I guess, but it's like, oh, I think there are great reveals. I think there's fun bits in there. The stuff, again, we talked about on the podcast, but like, I don't want to see Keeley act. I don't want him feigning dumb
have
with
a
Muppets
trailer?
anymore. It's like all that stuff. Like, I just get
You
it out
signed the
of there.
agreement to show that trailer 2 months ago. What do you mean? Why are you asking him if he has a trailer? That's so disingenuous sounding on stage.
Right. But I don't. It just, a part of me just feels like, and again, it's probably me listening to too many video game podcasts. But it just, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Of like, this has been over a decade of having this exact conversation. Like, I don't really understand that idea of why this year everybody is just so fired up. Like it's the first time we're talking about like, hey, these Game Awards. This is all about just teasing upcoming stuff. It's like, yeah, it's been like that forever. It's just
Well, to me, the last thing, and it's kind of weird to say the same thing at a certain point. I know other people in the audience want to say their piece, but for me, the distinctive part was how tight those dev speech times were. Because you're right, it has always been like that. And while I've always had issue with that, it hasn't really been a big sticking point for me. It's been more of like it is always a little bit more of like, the ads and the trailers, but whatever. And we've come a long way since this shit crotchro robot, like we don't go quite that far anymore, which is nice. But cutting that part down when that's like one of the parts that needs the most expansion, it's like the thing that we always said you weren't that good at doing, which is like kind of making it more of an award show. Like now that's cut into even further. And I'm like, okay, this already didn't have, it's kind of like if the piece was already too small to split and then you split it again, it's like, okay, well now like I can't even eat here. Like I'm going to have to get something else. Yeah.
And people talk about overcorrections, and I'm sure going to next year, they will try to squeeze in more time and to give
he's
developers.
Definitely going to change it. The fact that he tweeted about it out the gate was shocking. Keeley doesn't say anything about anything.
I mean,
like in that way.
Yeah, he'll usually give some feedback, or like, I hear your feedback about the Game Awards and stuff like that. He's not getting out there with any hot button issues besides.
Well, but usually the fact that he responded to that specific feedback so quick, like he never does, even like the women thing, for instance, right? It's very clear that he heard that and like there had more women on stage, but he never publicly addressed that.
Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think he did.
Okay.
So definitely someone in chat let me know. I feel like we would remember if he did, but I can do some quick Googling.
I feel like I've seen some of those Keeley tweets. It was like, hey, your feedback's been heard. And like, he's always looking.
Well, yeah, but it's like not specific. It's like, right. I hear you. Like,
sure. Leafeon wanted to share some thoughts on the Game Awards. Hello, Leafeon. What's up?
Hello.
What's happening?
So, I mean, I said it in the Twitch chat too, but like a lot of the complaints that people have about the Game Awards and things that they want out of the Game Awards already do exist in the other award ceremonies that do happen.
Go watch them, everybody, please.
Yeah, like the GDC Awards, the Game Developers Choice Awards, which happen during GDC, that also go hand in hand with the IGF Awards, which happen every other year, which is the Indie Games Festival, which has it's a whole award ceremony voted by game developers, for indie games. It's fantastic and it's amazing, and that's a great opportunity for indie games for them to get their say and their moments of fame. They're just not marketed because they're not marketing events. They don't have trailers. It's all developers that come up on stage and actually do, the presenting and talk about it a lot. And I think last couple years or something like that was hosted by Tim Schafer. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, they're super fun.
It's great.
And I'm with you, Levi. I just feel like I wish a sliver of the energy put into bashing the Game Awards was put into lifting up these other Game Awards shows to actually hear developers speak more about it. Like share some links when those things are live rather than tweeting about what a piece of shit Keeley is. It's like, I don't know. I get drained of that. Maybe it's a matter too, Janet, of like not being on Twitter anymore and like reading Twitter. And so just
you're totally on Twitter.
Here's what I am.
Like you're not on Twitter. You're there all the time because you always know what's happening.
Here's what it is. First of all, the get a load of this channel in the Discord is very helpful. But also I see everybody's tweets from MinMax because the MinMax account like follows all the cohorts and stuff. So I got a general idea what's going on. And then when I check my mentions on my personal Twitter, then I see like the top 2 tweets. And so I get like those glimpses. And it's just, but a part of me is just like, I think part of my frustration with people being frustrated by the Game Awards is also a gross matter of just like, I don't know, Twitter discourse. It just feels like it's just a swirling cesspool of hate towards this thing that I don't think deserves nearly the amount of hate that it gets. But
I
again,
think that it could just not exist, right? Like, is the other alternative.
Right.
Like, we could just not have this. I think the only thing that affects me about it, because like all I do is watch it from home. It's just like there was moments during that show like where Sam Lake is up at the mic and you can tell he just won Best Narrative. You can tell he's getting emotional because he probably pitched the hell out of this thing, didn't think it was gonna land. Probably people told him it's too much, you did too much, whatever. And he's saying thank you for understanding this, and it looks like he's about to cry.
Right.
And I'm like getting emotional, and I'm like, oh my god, this is games. This feels great. Like wow. And then he gets kicked off the stage. Like it's just and it doesn't have to be like, oh, this show, I hate it so much. It's for me personally, it's just like, oh, that sucks. Like it just like
Yep.
felt, it just was like, ugh, like someone took something away from me. It felt like, but I could have just not had it in the first place, and I have to remind myself of that. But it truly it might just be a matter of tweaking the time slots of things, and it might hit different. But there's a few too many times during the show where it felt like that was like Aonuma, one of the best video game developers of all time, had like 25 seconds. Like that just feels weird, and it just feels like if you are someone who's the backstage of that show timing stuff, it's like we got to give this some breath, and then
Yeah.
we can do all the rest of the stuff. But I also liked Kelsey's suggestion. Like, what about a Winter Games Fest and then the show together?
Right.
And they're just like separate things but happen at the same time. Like that also could hit different. So
Yeah.
people who want to watch the show can watch the Game Awards, and people who want to just watch trailers, which is totally fair too. Like
Yeah.
if you want to hear what's going on next year, they could do that too. And then they could just sprinkle the biggest stuff in it, like OD or something, like, you know, still have Kojima come out, still have Matthew McConaughey come out, and those people if you want those people. But for all the like other trailers that are kind of just mostly advertisements, which is fair, but they're ads, just have that be like Winter Games Fest is the after show after the Game Awards, and here's all the new announcements coming up right now, like kind of energy.
I think you need to shake it up somehow. You need to sprinkle something in there. If it's just the straight awards, I think no one's going to tune in again. It's going to be the equivalent of the GDC Awards, you know, where it's like classy, but just no one cares. So it's like, what is the right level of sprinkling in stuff? Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast.
I wonder when we all decided that this was the titular thing, because I've actually had agreements pass in front of me for devs who it said like if they get nominated for the one of these awards, it's a bonus for them. Like it's just this, like it's not other things. So like clearly devs also know that this is like it's a publicity thing. Like if we win this, we get to put it in our box, we get to potentially get more money, maybe get a better royalty share, whatever. Like I think people forget like behind the scenes, it's like, yeah, like why do we care about this? It's because it gets internet money attention. So like the publishers care about it and they're gonna push for it, and then that just makes Keighley want to work on harder on it, and then all of a sudden it's become this thing like what, a decade later, that it's the thing we talk about, even though you're totally right, Leafeon, there's tons of other stuff going on. Like, well, how come it doesn't get attention? I think it's just because Timothy Chalamet, they can get Timothy Chalamet. Like that's like
and
why.
Jeff Keighley, yeah.
And yeah, like they can get more people because for some reason we've just viewed it as like the Oscars of games, even though I hate that comparison, but it's the closest thing we'll ever get. But you know, that's just what it is. And I think it's fair to be like, okay, well, if it's the Oscar for games, then let them talk when they win their Oscar. For God's sakes, please.
Yeah, well, like the Spike Awards were the old award show, right?
Yeah.
The Spike VGAs, and that was on TV. So I remember when Keighley first pitched it back in like 2014 for the Game Awards. That was like he said it was like the spiritual successor or like the revival of the VGAs.
Yeah.
But not in, you know, those explicit words. So it was just like, oh, we're having it on TV again, and it's going to be a big deal, and it's going to have big events, because those were canceled, you know?
Right.
So it just kind of the big televised event kind of just spiritually went into the Game Awards. And those early Game Awards that he did have, like from, you know, 2014, 15, 16, I remember loving those because all the announcements, they were maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 big announcements through them, and they just became more and more and more throughout the years. And then when I guess COVID happened, right? All the Summer Games Fest was a thing, and now Jeff Keighley just does all those kind of trailers, you know, digitally. The Game Awards have just kind of blown up into only trailers. Because, I mean, my favorite Game Awards moment, and probably my favorite Game Awards in general, was that year when they had Reggie, Phil Spencer, and was it Shu? Oh, who I forget who was on stage at that. Sean.
And
I
I
forgot
think it was Sean Layden
Yeah. I
Was
think
it Sean Layden? Yeah, the three of them on stage together talking.
saying
Right? And that was
nothing,
right
but they
after
were
Iwata
technically on stage. Yeah.
Yeah, or they had that whole thing after Iwata died too.
Yeah.
Like, those were fantastic years, and I feel like this year, you know, if I don't know if something that wouldn't happen again.
Right.
I feel like if we kept going in this direction.
Yeah. I mean, just for the awards this year, I mean, I do think it was like the biggest ever for announcements. I mean,
Yeah.
if like, you know, the follow up to Inscription, World of Goo 2, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, Big Walk, the next game from the developers of Untitled Goose Game, 5 different Sega games being remade, the Hellblade 2 stuff, the new studio from, I forget her name, sorry, the person who was formerly at Tango.
Emma Kidwell.
No.
Nah, that was just,
yeah,
her,
Kamuri is the name.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Is the name of the game.
Ikamura.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But then the new game from Moon Studios, developers of Ori, that was big. Visions of Mana, a new Mana game. I mean, Rise of the Ronin trailer, a new Kojima game, Jurassic Park Survival, 7 Rebirth trailer.
So much stuff.
Yeah, Don't Nods, their new game that's very much like Life is Strange, Lost Records. That Marvel Blade game, Light No Fire, the new game from No Man's Sky, as developers, Hello Games, Final Fantasy 16 DLC, Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, I do think there was a ton
Would've
in
been a
there.
great SGF. So just,
Yeah, you're right, but I don't know. Janet, sorry if I'm being too negative about your take on the awards. I'm not trying to lambaste
man,
you in
get in line.
particular. No, I'm just talking about. I think it's more just I get frustrated listening to other podcasts talk about it. Like there was
here's
not
the thing
exciting
though,
stuff.
like and this is why I feel like obviously I don't think you need to agree with me, but like you know how I've talked about the Game Awards in the past, and I've never had like I'm not a Jeff Keighley hater by trade.
Right,
I do have my
right.
criticisms, of course, but I think I'm more lenient on Jeff than a lot of people because I do think Jeff has haters, but also like
yeah.
some of those things are also correct. Like, that I'm not gonna lie, the haters aren't just making stuff up. Like
Right.
I've seen the, and I get, is it too much? Is it for the yes, sure, we can have that conversation, but I don't know. I'm not saying this for the clout. Like this is just the vibes of like
Yep.
having been there.
Totally.
And I feel like for me, like everyone's entitled to feel their own way, but I just couldn't leave feeling good without feeling like that almost was, I don't know, negligent of why we were here again, to be like, oh man, like the developers didn't get to talk, but man, I love Don't Nod, so let's go. But then again, I've never been like the hype rah person.
Sure.
Even for stuff I like, it's just like a trailer is only going to do so much for me. Like, you know what I mean? That's just like my personality. But yeah, like I feel like to be like, well, it's awesome because of that, and not, for me, it's just impossible not to feel the weight of what went down, which makes it sound very dramatic for what it was. But it was just so obviously odd of a choice to make it so like, boom, 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 let's go. But meanwhile, again, like we can have Kojima and everyone on stage for like, Anthony Mackie was on like talking for forever. It's like, it's very clear where we have time and where we don't have time. And what things we want to make time to talk about and what things we don't want to make time to talk about. And it's just like, damn, like I knew this was never, it kind of reminds me, funny enough, of the Pokemon conversation you and I have. While like I still stand by, I think Pokemon is like a, really great franchise, but I didn't like the last game. And I'm like, man, this game like kind of sucks. And you're like, I've been telling you the games kind of suck. And I'm like, am I now just kind of catching up? That's how I felt about the Game Awards, where so many people are like, dude, the Game Awards freaking suck. Like, and I'm like, nah, like, what are you talking about? Like, it's cool. Like, I enjoy, seeing what's game of the year and all this stuff. And now I'm like, oh man, like, it's time for me to go to the other side. You know what I mean?
So, I mean,
like,
okay, what if they just gave developers a minute and a half and to give the acceptance speech, they put 3 more winners on stage, and
I'd be a lot more down for that.
And
because
if Keighley
then it's like, we're
at the
going
top,
back to...
if Keighley at the top also said, hey, this has been a brutal year, shout out to everybody who was laid off. Is that the recipe for success? Well, I would hope it's slightly more tactful.
That's some stuff, for sure. I mean, I think there's definitely other issues as well, but that would, if those things had happened, I probably wouldn't have the take I do have.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's not the reality we're in, and I'm sure the numbers, and that's the thing. And now I'm starting to look around like, I feel I'm like complacent in that. Now what's my move? You know, we're like, and we can elevate the spawnies, but I'm like, that's not. I feel like, I don't know. I left just so frustrated with how things were handled and feeling kind of, I don't know, bad about my role in it. Like, which is, I don't know.
Huh. Well, outside of all that, how was the social side of it?
Oh, it was awesome.
Oh,
You know,
good.
again, it's great, like seeing everybody. One reason that I really enjoy the Game Awards, especially going in person, is the like getting to hang out with people that I only ever see online. I got to meet people for the first time in real life that I've known for like
Fun.
literally like since like 2018.
Who do you got? Who's the biggest thrill?
Oh god, that's such a unfortunate question in a sense. Like, no shade to anybody else, but I think like my friend Natalie Flores.
Oh yeah.
Like getting to see her, like I mean, she's such a talented person in the space. Like, if you're not following Natalie Flores, like, on socials, like, go do that. Like, she's done a million different things, and she's just an incredibly impressive person.
Where is
and
she
she's
now?
also very young. She's in PR. She
Okay.
is, I want to say, it starts with Friends, but I don't want to get it wrong. Future Friends VG.
Okay.
That's, like, where she's at for PR, but she's also the editor for a game called, Lunar, like for Lunar's games, like an indie studio. So she's like editing one of their games, like the writing on it, and she does some consulting as well with like hit detection. And she's in Future Class, and she does like also
Wow.
comms at Prytania Media. So these are just
she
things she does
sleep?
now. Like she's like honestly like the hardest worker I've ever known. Like I think she does like so she's so impressive, but she's also like a great person who I've known for many years. So getting to see her is probably definitely up there for our highlights for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. And then you had a meetup with Kind of Funny, like
Yeah.
with Blessing and folks.
Yeah, that was fun. We had that just at a bar not too far from where the Giant Bomb stuff was, and it was good. It was about the crowd size we expected, which was like a few dozen.
Perfect.
So it didn't get too crazy. I wasn't really that worried about that, but Blessing started kind of freaking out about it. He's like, "What if it's gonna be like a lot of people?" I'm like, "Well, then that's good, right?" And he's like, "What if?" He literally told. I don't know if I should say this because I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna be like, "Why are you putting me on blast on this like side podcast?" But he's like, "What if this turns into like our Fire Festival?" I was like, "What do you think?" Like, yeah. Anyway, all your favorites are actually neurotic people, but it was fine. And then I was like, okay, we gotta leave because we had to take them to the airport, and I'm like, okay, like we should say bye to everyone because like they came out here to like see us, and he's like, I mean, I feel like we can just leave. I was like, no, we can't. I was like, buzzing. Like, stand here and wave with me. Like, I know it's awkward, but like, but no, it was super fun. We just kind of, him and I just kind of split up and like walked around talking to tables and like hung out. We took a group photo with everybody. It was nice. Everyone was very chill. So it was very much the pro is like, we weren't like flooded with people coming up to us, but
Right.
the light con is like, we had to then on our own, like go up and be like, hi, what's up? And it's funny because they're there to see us, but I'm like, am I like annoying this group? Which is dumb because they're there to see us. But anyway, these are all the internal monologues that we have that y'all don't think we have because we podcast. But
Did
it was
you
fun.
did you learn anything at the community meetup? I don't know. I feel like every community meetup we've had with MinMax is always like, I'm struck by just like, oh, everyone has such a different experience and different entry point. But was there like an overwhelming theme to feedback you got from people talking to them in person?
No, I mean, I don't. I think I'm less inclined to also ask for feedback than you are. That's
Sure.
like a big thing that you ask everybody, like, what can we do better? Like, you like meet somebody for the first time, and you're like, what can we do better? And I'm
Sure.
like, I don't, I'm just here. No, not really. It was really more just general kind of conversations about like what we're playing, game of the year stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of us came from Giant Bomb, so we talked about that.
Oh yeah.
One really cool thing is someone brought one of the faceplates for their PlayStation 5 for everyone to sign at the event.
Oh,
which
that's
was, like,
sweet.
really fun. So yeah, I don't know. It was cool. And like, we just talked about, sometimes life things if they lived like in LA, like, LA stuff.
Sure,
or,
sure,
like,
sure.
some of them went to Day of the Devs if they were local, because that was open to the public. Yeah, but no, it wasn't anything too like specific, or like we didn't do a lot of like, how'd you get started like listening to the show? We kind of just went
Yeah.
with, wherever the conversation naturally went. And yeah, it was a good time.
Can I confess something embarrassing?
Yeah, always.
Speaking of Blessing, I don't think I want to go to the Game Awards because I don't want people to judge how I'm dressed.
Oh, you
there-
can just wear like a suit.
I feel like there's
Like,
so
you're a
much
dude.
weird, like, Kotaku had a story like the best dressed people at the Game Awards. It feels like, and it
It's all
seems like
politics. I was
such
like,
a big
I wasn't
thing.
there.
There we go. How big of a thing is it to dress up at the Game Awards? Whenever I see photos of people at the Game Awards, I'm always like, what? Do I have to dress up like this is the Met Gala? What is happening over there?
I loved your
I mean,
fit, Janet.
Thank you. I love dressing up for it. It's like so fun. But I just like getting dressed up because there's not a lot of. I mean, we game and podcast for a living, so I'm mostly just in my house clothes or like one step above my house clothes.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's kind of like anything else, right? If you're into fashion, it's a good time to like flex or really put together an outfit. But if you don't really care, I mean, especially like you can just wear like a suit, like any suit is fine. If you've gone to a wedding, you can go to the Game Awards. Like,
But if I went to the Game Awards, I should bring a suit.
I would wear a suit or like a button up. You can wear whatever you want. I mean, like Khalif wore just like khakis and a sweater, but his sweater was like all sequiny and cool. So just wear
see.
whatever you want.
It's not wear whatever I want, Janet. This is a situation where I feel like you really gotta up your game.
I mean,
here.
Greg wears Converse, but also he's Greg, so
Yeah,
you
can never
do
go
the
wrong
other
with the
thing.
Game Dev Classic: a T-shirt, blazer, jeans, and Converse.
I feel like that is definitely like has been meme to hell. So like, but also Xalavier Nelson came in a Christmas suit that lit up, like one of those, like he got it at like Sam's Club.
Okay. How do you
So
compete
you can
with
just
this?
like, I don't know, do whatever. I will say I mean, I knew you weren't going to be there, so it's not like I was expecting you there, but like it would have been cool if you were there, like it, just to hang out together and like meet people and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like socially, I would like to go. I just get stressed out seeing pictures of people and blessing like with a shirt that's like revealing his chest and he's all muscly and strong. What am I supposed to do? I have to dress up to that degree? I look like an asshole. I can't do that.
Well, he is, some people. Well, you've never seen him and Spider-Man in the same room together, so.
Oh, that's interesting.
that.
I guess that is a whole thing. Okay, sorry. The Day of the Devs.
Yeah.
Janet, walk us through that. How was that?
Oh, I loved it. Great. If you're in San Francisco, I believe they usually have it there. They had it in LA this year. I don't know if they're going to make that like an annual where they have like one in each location. I hope so. It took place in the same event space that SGF takes place in. So if you want to know generally the layout, watch our vlog from SGF.
Right.
Just watch that anyway if you haven't, because it's great. Standing Cut on patreon.com/minmax2ends.
Oh,
But
Janet.
it was really fun. Like it was less games than I thought would be there, which was kind of nice because you can kind of hit up everything you really wanted to. So yeah, a couple experimental weirdo games too. Like they had like a physical outdoor giant thing that was like tricking a camera into thinking you're not a person. It was like called like Don't Get Hit by the Self-Driving Car. And like you're trying to get to the end
Oh, gross. Okay.
while like not, it's like the camera can like it'll tell you on the screen like if it thinks you're a person and you're trying to make it think you're not a person and like get to the end, and like that was fun.
Right.
There was a funky one called Give Me Toilet Paper where it was on Nintendo Switch and
Oh,
they put
yeah.
a Joy-Con inside a roll of toilet paper on a cardboard like slab, and then you roll it around to like move in the game, like get
Yeah.
the toilet paper to the bottom of the kind of maze in a kind of Donkey Kong, old school Donkey Kong-esque fashion. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Oberty was like a dope puzzle game I played.
Obra D?
Oberty, Oberty.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It is a simple puzzle game in which you are given an image on the left-hand side and must replicate it using like different shape. You get like a couple shapes. It's all shape space. So like,
Okay.
you get a couple shapes on the right-hand side. Jill Grote coming up to say, I'm guessing favorites from Day of the Devs, right?
I am, and I was like, "Oh, I requested to speak, but I didn't turn on my unmute anything." Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hi.
welcome.
Hello,
You went to
Joe.
Day of the Devs too?
I did indeed. It was the big event for me for the Game Awards.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time. I think I tried Lucas Pope's new game, which is
Nice.
on just the Playdate, which I
Oh.
found very interesting.
I was worried about
Um,
that game because I feel like I haven't seen it for a long time, and they were quiet about it for a long time too. But it's like being a bouncer on Mars, right?
Yeah, it is. It is essentially being a bouncer on Mars. You're like in charge of the door at like a community center, but it's like a late night community center. And the section that I played, you were the bouncer for a like anger management Cyclops session. And so the door It's a really like it's basically Papers, Please, but a little sillier. Um, the door had like instructions that were stick figurely drawn. Like you want to let in cyclopses that are sad, not multiple-eyed things that are sad or multiple-eyed things that are happy or cyclopses that are happy. And that's it. That's all the like info you have. So you have to sort of use the buttons to look around to see these creatures, which none of them fit like an easy category. Some of
Huh.
them are like one eye made out of like 50 eyes, and you're like, does this count as a cyclops? I don't know. Um, and then the big part of like the playdate, like using the crank is being able to open the window, and then later you're playing sort of the Tower of Hanoi with like refreshments that you are putting out, and that's how you're
Huh.
getting money is if you put everything out correctly and you clean everything in between, you get more money and more tips from the incoming creatures. And then at the end, I got a little like rundown of is everyone happy? Did I help people? How much money did I make? And then what's my next event going to be? And I really wanted to do the Ninja Hamburger night,
It does sound
but they
good.
didn't let me get to the next part. So
Is that going to be the go-to killer app for Playdate? Like, does it still feel like that's the one that everyone's looking forward to?
maybe like I don't have a play date myself, and I was thinking when I
Really?
finished it, I'm like, do I have to get a play date now?
You might. You might. Janet, was there like a game of the show from Day of the Devs?
Um, for me, honestly, it probably would be Oberty. I just thought it was really
Yeah.
good and very simple. But I also really liked Death the Guitar, which was sort of this platformer that had a lot of like combative energy. It's like it's not pixel art, but it's like 2D, pretty simple art, but it's very like bloody. It's like your guitar getting
Oh.
you like can shred people to death. And you're like a little
Ooh.
guitar and you have like little feet. So you're just a guitar with little feet, which I think is very cool. And then some games I frankly saved for later just because if they had a demo out, especially if they were slower paced, like story oriented things, I find those are not that enjoyable for me to demo because then
Yeah.
I have to put a lot of time and then it's like I could, spread that around a little bit better. But one game that was playable there that I really loved that I didn't play at the show, but I played before the show, there's a demo on Steam. It is, I think, Jill, let me know if I'm saying the name right. Is it Cryptmaster? It was
Yes.
like, okay.
Yeah.
That game's awesome. Right now, the audio levels are a little busted. So hopefully they fix that.
Fixable.
But it is a typing game. So, Ben, maybe you'll be into this because there's typing.
Yeah.
It is, to try to be as brief as possible, it is a kind of word guessing game, and like the typing is not about just input things really quickly. Essentially the gameplay is it is like an old school dungeon crawler first person, and you'll do things like approach a chest, and to open it you type chest, and then the crypt master will say like, so you forgot all your memories, classic in this game, and you're trying to like build your memories back to like gain your abilities back. So the crypt master will be like, okay, guess what's in this chest. I can do a couple things. Like he can basically do sensory things. So you can have him, touch it, smell it, taste it, like lift it, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he'll describe it to you and be like, it's fuzzy with a string at the end. And it's like, okay, maybe this is the right. And you can see how many letters the word of the
Yeah.
item is.
Okay.
So then when you guess it, your reward is that you gain letters, and it's you in a party. Those letters fly into like kind of underneath your party's name. Like think of it as like almost like a name tag situation. And what that's helping you guess, like those are letters to help you guess a word that is an ability that character has. So it's stuff like hit or light spoiler for the demo. One of them is soothe, and it's like, oh, that's my healer. Okay. And then when you fight people, that's kind of where typing quick comes in, because you have to kind of remember like, okay, what are my actions? And there's a turn-based mode, but the developers designed it around real-time combat. So, do it that way you will. But I thought it was just like one of the coolest things I've played in kind of forever. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
coming
cool.
in 2024. Cryptmaster is the name of the game. Did either of you or anybody here play Typecast this year?
No.
I don't think so.
Jill, have I stumped
I
you on an
didn't.
indie game?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I know it's completely unfair to make you.
You are
It's,
now the Indian former.
It's
I
like-
have to know every indie game ever.
it's the
Yeah.
same
It's
curse
like a
that.
it's like a Santa Claus thing. Like it kind of like ghosted out of her.
Right. No, it is like
her off
I
the
always feel
roof.
bad for like Kelsey, where it's like somebody brings up something from game history, like Kelsey, how do you not know this? It's like, well, she can't know everything. But
No,
type,
it's really bad. Like I was at the Game Awards and people were like talking to me like, "What's the best indie ever?" I'm like, I don't know.
Best
What are
indie
indie
ever.
games?
it's
That's where you say
impossible.
Dave the Diver to troll, you know,
Yeah.
just for the discourse.
Smart.
The discourse lost that night when Dave the Diver didn't win. I was like,
I
another
know.
L for the discourse.
Oh, it would have exploded. But yeah, Typecast. We talked about it before on Party Chat. I think when we were talking about underappreciated games from 2023. But it is a bullet hell typing game. So if you like, I know it's a different thing, but if you like Vampire Survivors, you should at least look at Typecast because it's surprisingly cool. But speaking of that, Jill, did you play? Oh my God, I wrote it down. Bone Razor Minions.
No, what
It's-
the heck is Bone Razor Minions, Hanson?
The
was just
game is
saying
called
nouns.
Boners Are Minions. No, Bone Razor Minions is the name of it. We talked about it again in the podcast, but I still really like it. It's another Vampire Survivors like game, but I like it more than Vampire Survivors, but another cool indie game from this
Goobies
year.
gang.
Yeah,
What is it?
Goobies.
Oh, this is from your podcast?
Yes.
You want to give a plug to that podcast?
Yeah, we're the Indie Council. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think Google Podcasts until they kill Google Podcasts, which is coming very soon. So shout out to that. Jill also uploads them onto her YouTube channel, which is
I think it's just theindianformer.com. But,
There it is.
on YouTube. So go check that out.
YouTube.com/@theindianformer. Jill, you're welcome to stick around, but thanks for being here.
No problem. I'm gonna go get lots of Day of the Devs coverage up on my site. I will
Sweet.
see all of you soon.
All right, bye, Jill. The Indian Informer. Go there,
Bye.
everybody. Check it out. All right, let's rapid fire through these community calls. Hello, Bob.
Bob.
Oh, hey, everybody.
fun.
I literally had a dream last night, Bob, about Hunter Bergen, the person who wrote that song, about just hanging out with them and him being super impressed that we use that song all the time. It's very sad.
That's radical.
It was radical. Bob, what's happening? What would you like to talk about?
Well, this is the worst possible timing for this, but I wanted to talk about Dave the Diver.
Screw you, dude.
Get out of here.
Let me guess. It's good.
It's so good.
So good.
It's amazingly good. I didn't start it until like 2 weeks ago, and like every day I play, I go, "Oh, wait, this game is this too? Oh, this game has this too?
Right.
Wait, this is in this game too?" And I'm charmed like to the 15th degree. Like it is rapidly climbing my end of the year list.
Ooh, where is that right now, if you had to guess?
Oh, 3 or 4, if I'm being
Nice.
honest.
Wow. Haley,
think
do you, have
it's-
do you have a sense of where it's at
Probably-
for you?
Yeah.
Haley?
What?
Do you have a sense of where it's at for you on your top 10?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to Bob still. It's up there pretty high for me too.
Oh,
Mid-
gosh.
Mid top?
Mid-top. Mid-top's a great
old
place to
mid-top.
be. God damn.
The old mid top. Yeah.
It's in crop top potential.
Yeah, that's interesting, Bob. Well, thanks for sticking with it and giving us the full Dave the Diver report of better than we all expect, and it keeps going.
It's a great Switch game. I gotta
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
It's a
It's the
damn
perfect
good
bet
Switch
game.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those like I have 15 minutes, but I'm actually secretly gonna play for like 45 and not say anything. And yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect. Sweet, Bob. Any other wishes before we close out the year in Party Chat here?
Can I wish that Sea of Stars gets #1 on the GOTY list? I don't know.
It all comes down to Haley and Kyle.
I'm gonna fight for it. I love that game. That game was great.
Please do. It's
really
so good. It's so
I
good.
know.
I was saying this on last week in Pride Chat, but Garl is like one of my favorite characters of all time. I love him so
Ooh,
much.
let's
He's
talk-
such a
oh.
good character.
We have a
Oh,
category coming up on Saturday that we're going to be debating about best character of the
Yeah.
year. I want to hear all about it then. That sounds great. Sweet.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Bob. Appreciate it.
Bye, bye, bye.
Goodbye. All right. We got Hazard. Hello, Hazard. What's happening?
How's it going? How's it going?
Really good. Really well. What would you like to talk about?
Well, a bunch of us in the MinMax Discord were having a watch party for the Game Awards on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I freaked out at a very specific part, which is kind of ironic to say after Janet's comments about not freaking out about trailers. I was very much the opposite of that.
Sure.
But Haley, I really want to get a 1 to 10. How excited are you for the Dead by Daylight Supermassive game?
Right? I was so intrigued by
yeah.
that. I really am surprised they're not well, I mean, I saw a 2-second cinematic, so I don't know if they'll actually do this, but it looks like they created a whole new killer to be like the antagonist, which is interesting, and it's like their own IP killer, it looks like. I don't know. I know horror decently well, but that character didn't look recognizable at all to me. And like you were saying, it kind of looked like Meg was one of the people, like question mark. So are they using survivors like from their games as the playable characters? Are they going to talk? Like that'd be kind of crazy. It just would break all the rules of Dead by Daylight that have been established for almost 8 years now. I'm so intrigued to see what they do, but they're so good. That studio's so good at character design and like its abilities and its backstory and why a person is evil and stuff. Like they put so much effort into it. Like they'll release someone who's like, he uses traps, and then you'll like read his bio and it's like this whole intense story of like why he uses traps and like why the way he is and stuff. So I think combining that with Supermassive could be really interesting, but I hope it's more Until Dawn, less anthology, I will say, because I didn't mind the anthology games, but they definitely didn't hit the same as like Until Dawn or even honestly I like the Quarry.
Yeah.
But if they could remake like the charm of Until Dawn with those good options and stuff with just the IP of Dead by Daylight, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, like I really think the story of Until Dawn is still sort of the strongest of that whole sort of suite of games that Supermassive have put out. Like it was just it was just such a level above it for me anyway. Anything that's been in Dark Pictures so far, but yeah, I definitely agree. Like I think like the killers that they put out at the beginning were obviously sort of like copies of the sort of people that they couldn't get the license to at the beginning. So obviously Hillbilly is meant to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that kind of stuff. But then as time went on, they got some really like inventive and unique killers. So like I would love to have seen something that had like, I don't know, The Artist, with all the ink and stuff like that.
That's what I'm thinking of too. Yeah.
Like, that would have been an incredible monster like villain for a single player game, I think.
I just want to hear them talk and like that's such a small thing, but in Dead by Daylight it's just like run away. It's like you're getting chased by your sibling. Like that's the whole game. It's like run. But like for them to stop and be like, "Hello, I'm going to kill you," would be like such a different hit. It would be so interesting.
Oh god.
Do you think that the game ends with the group of whoever you are having to fix a generator?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, like how so? You have to there's generators scattered all around and you could split up or work together to go do them or something. They showed a hook. So clearly like someone's getting killed on a hook or could get killed on a hook like 10 times over. Yeah, like I wonder if it's going to be more like cheeky winks, to Dead by Daylight gameplay, or if they're going to like be like, no, you're like in a Dead by Daylight game. It's just like more plot heavy. I don't know what they're going to do. What do you think?
I think they're describing it as like being like it's standing by itself, but it's going to resonate more with fans. So I think it will be like cheeky wink central for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Thank you so much. That was super cool.
I love it, Hazard. Yeah,
I forgot that was even a thing.
I know that's a great example of something that completely flew by me, but I'm glad it struck a chord with probably millions of people out there. It's just for us, I'm sure we talked over it in a rude manner. But thank you, Hazard. Appreciate it.
You mean you didn't start playing Dead by Daylight after they got Nicolas Cage banned?
Very tempting. Very tempting.
A huge get.
That was a really fun moment when Nicolas Cage joined.
I do think it is weird, now that I think about it, that have we ever put Dead by Daylight in the New Show Plus poll, Haley?
Right when I first joined, I was going to teach you it was an option, but it didn't get picked.
God. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's a good New Show overflow option or something, because that seems wild that with your knowledge, you've never really been able to show it off at MinMax here, at least.
I would love to play that.
Hello, B Wood. Welcome to B Show.
Hey, how's it going?
Really well. What would you like to talk about? I could take a guess, but I'll let you say it.
Oh, I don't. Well, see, now you make me want to swerve when you thought I was going to go straight.
Oh, okay. Do what you want to do.
But first, I kind of want to talk to Haley about Sea of Stars. It sounded like you beat the game over the weekend.
I beat it, but I didn't get the magic conch ending. How dumb does that sound? I love it though. I haven't gotten all the conches yet, but I wanted to finish it, so I just kind of powered through. Is
You
it the
didn't
kind
spoil
of thing?
yourself.
No, I didn't spoil myself, or I didn't know that how it was gonna end or
Okay,
anything.
good.
But I was gonna ask though, is it will I have to do a whole, because they hit me with the go wrap up anything you want to wrap up before I went to the
Yeah,
ending.
yeah,
Will I have to start
yeah.
from the start again if I want to like get the
Oh,
good ending?
no. I don't think so. Do you want me to list the things that you have to do? Are you okay with that?
Wait, don't they
Okay,
just put me
I won't.
right?
I won't.
I'm trying to think of what they. Wait a sec. No, they just put me right back
See,
to
this
where.
sounds too complicated. This is why I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, well, how would you possibly keep up with
This
this?
is the kind of thing, people ask why I won't. It's this shit right here.
Janet, I promise you, Janet, it's not that complicated. I promise you, it's not that complicated.
Nah,
See, now
I've
I think
listened
I
to people
know.
before. I'm scared. No, I'm sorry. I gotta leave.
I
So-
thought all I needed was the conches. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, there is more. So you beat the game, and then they showed something, right? They showed
Yeah.
you some,
Easy.
right? And
Yeah.
so so for that thing to do what it needs to do, you have to do for each pillar of something. If that makes sense.
Oh, okay. And they showed me getting the first pillar. Oh, I see. Okay, so
And if you talk to your party at camp, they'll pretty much tell you what you need to do. They don't explicitly say it, but doing those things helps with those pillars.
Oh, okay. So I'm not even done the game then, is what you're telling me. I need to go play it this week along with 10 other things.
Let me put it
Good
this
luck.
way. Getting the true ending isn't even like the ending. Like once you get the true ending, that gives you have you been collecting flimsy hammers?
No.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But essentially, there's 4 flimsy hammers. You need those 4 flimsy hammers to do something, and that gives you like a really cool kind of like, oh man, this is awesome. And I think that you would really enjoy it. I think everybody on here would enjoy it. I think Ben would really enjoy it. I think Janet would really enjoy it. But yeah, it's really cool. Ben, did you beat it?
No, I know this is the worst thing to say on a gaming podcast, but I need to go back to it. I have it on my Steam Deck, and every free opportunity I have, I'm like, oh, I should probably boot up Sea of Stars. But it is in the top 3 of games I'm dying to play this week.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's a good game. Go ahead.
How long, so knowing that I beat everything and I have maybe half the shells, how long do you anticipate if I were to power through this week to get the true ending? Or should I YouTube it?
I feel like I'm going to fail you 2 weeks in a row. Last week you said, hey, which Final Fantasy should I start with? And I didn't have a good answer. And then now you're asking me, how long is it going to take me? And I'm not the right person to ask because it takes me forever to play games. Like,
Yeah.
I think I started this game right after I finished Spider-Man, and I just did everything like yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Or the
Okay.
day before.
Okay, we can do it.
So-
We can do it. Janet, we can do that. Then we can play Bayonetta Origins, and the year will be perfect.
I had to let go of a lot of things, and this was the first thing I let go. I'm not gonna lie, and if that makes me a bad person, that is what it is.
It's not a bad, maybe a worse person, but not bad. I'd say.
I feel like a
No.
bad person because also I kind of funny I have longer time technically, but like, am I going to use that time? Like, I'm on vacation, like not really,
Yeah.
But Barrett loves Sea of Stars, and last year his big thing was Psychonauts 2, and I didn't play that either, but I played a little bit, and also like Sea of Stars is definitely probably better than Psychonauts 2. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So
I agree.
now I feel bad because it's like last year I was like, the game that you like isn't actually very good, and now I'm like, the game that you like that is good, I'm just not gonna play.
He
So I
can't
feel like a
win.
jerk.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm a
that's
bad
tough.
person.
That's a tough one
So
to lay
something to
out.
work on for next year if I don't get to it. Barrett, I know you're a fan of Min-Max.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm working on it. Not really, but in my head, I am.
B Wood,
Ben,
sorry.
I know I'm going really long. Can I just talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VII?
I thought that's what you're going to lead with. Yeah. Okay. Well, what stood out to you the most about that new trailer? Wasn't it wild how much they showed in that extended cut of it?
They are always showing a lot. I feel like, and it's I told Haley last week that I was a calm and reasonable person up until I heard the YouTube video where they like gave you little samples from the vinyl, and now I've completely lost my mind. I am itching and scratching. I am mad at the Game Awards, but not for everybody else's reason. I'm mad because they didn't announce the demo.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah,
is-
sure.
This is a war crime in my opinion.
Oh,
I feel like
wow,
somebody
okay.
should go to jail for this. I am very upset.
All right. That's
but
fair.
yeah. The thing that stood out to me, I don't think a lot of people whatever. But there's two feathers that fall.
Yes.
From
yes
at the end of that trailer, and the reason I think that's something, and it's I feel like it's probably nothing, but I was like, my brain was like, I wonder if that actually does mean something more than just one person being.
I think that's exactly what's going on. I hadn't connected it until you said it, but I think we're getting multiple of that dude. I think it's going to be every version of him coming around. And
Ben, you yes,
right?
You made my heart
I mean, it's going to be a weird thing, but yeah, I'm with you. Okay,
I would love it if it was that was the case, but yeah,
it's going to get so weird at the end. It's the least bold take ever, but yeah, I think the ending of that game is going to shatter brains and then leave us exactly where we're at now, of just trying to wrap our minds around, like, what are they doing for the next entry? How could it possibly be this case? But
if I can make a plea real quick,
yes.
Jen, I know you're going to do a deep dive, the deepest dive on Rebirth.
We are,
yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna do it from the studio, but she's
okay.
yeah.
Right.
No,
That's a good
I'm not even gonna play
Janet and Haley, I think, will bring really good perspectives. Janet, who wasn't as hot as everybody else on the game, but is still like one of her top 10 PS5 games, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Haley seems curious, so that would be really cool to get their perspectives, but I understand it's going to be done in the studio. So
I mean,
you get like the it's kind of too much work, and also it kind of goes against the deepest dive format. But like the normie cast, where it's like people who don't know anything, they're like, "So what's your vibe?" It's like, I don't know, like
who's this?
Cloud's kind of a himbo, and his sword's big, and like there's a segue, and like it's a fun time. Like I don't know, maybe I'll fight like a building or something. But the music was insanely beautiful.
Yeah,
like at that performance, like I was, you know, I memed about it, but I genuinely was very moved by like that musical performance. My hot take is I think it was the best musical performance of the night. Even that like one's fun, but like you know, it was just so good. So yeah, it'll be exciting to play it, even though I have no idea what's going on. But that's true in a lot of games.
That is very awesome, and I think that makes you perfect to review this game.
Totally. I mean, yeah, this thing would. I mean, yeah, we have the main podcast too, where we need somebody to talk about it other than us that are on the deepest dive. So there's going to be plenty of people to weigh in on this whole thing.
That should be fun.
Thank you for letting me steal the time, man.
Hey, appreciate your support all year, B-Wood. Take care.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye,
You too.
B-Wood.
Bye.
See you guys later. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay, now we have a surprise from one Haley McLean. Let's take things down a notch. Get a little bit spooky on this episode of Party Chat, because Haley has something to convey.
Do you all want to have spooky vibes in December? Because that's how long this took.
It's like a Krampus kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
What has happened, Haley? So, all right, I'll let you tell the story.
So yes, we did like think of the telephone game, but writing a horror story. So we had numerous people in our lovely Discord community want to take part in this event that I originally started back in early October, but of course it took a while because I had to, the way it worked, and I couldn't find a website that did this. I'm going to look into this for next year if we want to do this again, because it probably would have saved out a lot of time, but I would have to write out to somebody. They would take their time to write their section. I wasn't like, hurry up. I was screaming at nobody. It was supposed to be fun. And then they sent me their section, and I would take that and send it to the next person, and then they could only read the previous section, write their section, and then I'd take that section to the next person and go on till we got through to everybody. So we have the full story now. And it's good, and it's spooky, and I kind of love how disjointed it is. Because it's like maybe that's part of the... Maybe it's so avant-garde, even I don't even know what's going on. It's very Alan Wake 2.
Okay, so this
and
is...
it's 4,000 something words, so it's decently long.
Oh my God. All right. Janet, are you up for reading this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the horror story written by the MinMax community in the Discord, taking one paragraph at a time. What's the best way to put it?
I said, like, you know, between 3 sentences long. Sometimes it's a little bit over, but that's okay. It's about a paragraph.
And are we doing popcorn with each other, or how are we trading off who's reading when?
Let's do popcorn. Love it.
Okay. All right. Let's get some nice music here.
Wait, sorry, we're reading 3 sentences at a time or 3 paragraphs at a time?
I have them split up in the message I sent you to each person, so we could just do each person.
Oh,
section.
Okay. Let me find that again. I opened it.
Yeah, I think each person makes more sense.
Okay, each person meaning...
You can see I have a dot on who wrote the section below for each one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That sounds great. Okay, you want to kick it off, Haley?
Sure. This is my intro I wrote back in October. Happy holidays, by the way. and we're gonna go now. In a horror story, the victim keeps asking why, but there can be no explanation, and there should be one. The unanswered mystery is what stays with us the longest. I wrote starts by mistake, and is what we'll remember in the end. That's from Alan Wake 1, by the way. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that.
Perfect.
The wind howled through the ancient gnarled trees, their skeletal branches reaching out like fingers towards the moonless sky. The night was shrouded in an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. In the heart of a long-forgotten forest, hidden away from civilization, stood a decrepit mansion. Its once grand facade was now decaying, monument to a forgotten era, and its windows were like empty eye sockets staring out into the darkness. Legend had it that the mansion was cursed, a place where the spirits of the past roamed freely, seeking revenge for the sins of the living. Many had dared to enter its forsaken halls, but none had returned the same. Some say they never returned at all. Tonight, high school student Ella Foster stood at the edge of the forest. She carried a flashlight and whispered nervously to herself, her face pale with trepidation. She hadn't heard from her best friend Lily in days, and the last text she received from her was simply the address of the mansion where Ella now stood. As she took her first cautious steps towards the darkened building, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that something malevolent was lurked in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. Little did she know of the horrors of the past within those decaying walls, and her search for her friend would soon lead her down a nightmarish path from which there might be no escape.
And so then this is from Nodzilla.
Yeah. Do we want to say everyone's name at the front, or should we just go through and we can... I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe we'll say it at the end of the section. So
okay.
Is that less seamless? I guess not. Anyways, Nodzilla says, Ella took her time crossing the large yard in front of the house, shining her light over all creeping shadows looming towards her. Before stepping on the large, decrepit porch, she gave out a long sigh, hoping her friend was not in the house. She gave one last text saying, "Please answer," to Lily, hoping to get a response to finally leave. A soft ding was heard, along with a flashing light from a second-floor window. Before beginning her journey into the unknown, she said under her breath, exacerbated, "Come on."
I love that.
Gabe Brandolino, aka Steering Burrito, says, Ella cautiously reached for the front doorknob. As she slowly turned it, the old metal of the handle and hinges screamed out into the house, alerting whatever may lurk in the dark recesses of the manor. She peeked her head in and let out a reflexive scream as a 12-foot-tall skeleton strewn across the ground greeted her.
Excellent.
Jojo Horak says, Ella retracted her head and regained her composure, her breasts slowing down to regular lengths. No more half measures, she thought to herself, full commitment. Her feet crossed the threshold, and in an instant, the door slammed behind her, and marvelous chandeliers lit up the foyer and the giant skeleton. Echoing of footsteps came from somewhere up the grand staircase in the center of the room. Before she saw who or what was making the sound, a voice like the wind echoed through the room. "Ah, it's you."
Seabass says, a shiver ran up Ella's spine, but not one of nervousness or trepidation. She glanced around the room, looking for the source of the voice. From the elaborate staircase to the oriental rugs, to the dusty portraits hidden in shadowy alcoves and lining the room, she breathed deep again. It was definitely the voice, one she would obviously recognize after endless hours listening to their podcast. She would recognize it anywhere. The only question now was, what did they want with her?
This is EMR says, I'm looking for my friend, Lily. Have you seen her? Ella held her breath, waited for any response from the voice. Silence and the pounding in her chest were the only responses. Vagueness and riddles were the main themes of the Midnight Mystery podcast she was certain that the voice came from. What if they were testing her? It didn't matter. Lily needed her help. She would solve this with or without the voice's assistance. A glimmer of light caught her attention in one of the cobweb-covered portraits.
Michael XYZ says, this was the first sign of life that Ella had found in the decrepit estate. As she looked closer at the dusty portrait, she discovered that the glimmer was not a mere reflection. It was actually seeping through the cracked surface of the painting. Ella quickly removed the frame from the wall and discovered a secret passage? Just as that damn trickster from the Midnight Mystery podcast had implied. Lily, my absolute fool of a friend, Ella muttered to herself. You better be in here.
Will Jimbo writes, Ella ventured down the dim passage, her heart and mind both beginning to race as the passage soon offered her another choice in the form of a spiral staircase. Up into the next floor or down again? She could not make out sight nor sound from either direction. Ella placed a hand on the banister and took a deep breath to steady herself as she mulled over her next step. The podcast came back into her mind. The trickster host had teased his co-host. What goes up and down at the same time but doesn't move? Stairs, Ella thought. Right again they are. How much could they know?
Hero says, Ella swallowed any creeping fears and quickly ran up the stairs, set on finding Lily and getting out before anything could happen to either of them. She reached the next floor of the creepy, decrepit mansion and was surprised to find a long candle lit hallway, the candles all looking recently lit. Ella stopped and tried to decide which of the many doors before her she would try to search through next before screaming out Lily's name, hoping that Lily, and only Lily, would hear her.
Phoenix Rage 26 says, and then suddenly Ella heard a rattling sound. But which door did it come from? The smell of daisies filled the hallway. Ella felt a presence and spoke, Grandma? Are you there? The dimly lit candles started going out one by one. Something was coming towards her. Ella quickly made a decision to run to the door with the blue light shining beneath it.
Neil writes, racing down the hall, Ella grabbed the brass knob and wrenched the door open, quickly stepping through. The door slammed shut behind her and she stepped into the blinding blue light to find a classroom? Hearing a sob, she turned to face Lily, surrounded by mocking children, and next to her a twisted creature with an unsettling smile. Lily turned to this thing with a pleading look, but it gave her a sly smirk and joined the other children, jeering and mocking. Realizing the creature was her, she slammed her eyes shut as they welled with tears. But when she opened them again, she was alone in a musty, sparsely decorated bedroom, moonlight pouring in through an open window.
I think that was supposed to say here. Ooh. Not her.
That makes sense.
Yes.
S.G. Mills says. Ella ran to the open window and screamed out it into the moonlight. Now I'm gonna restart. Ella ran to the open window and screamed out it into the moonlit night, a cry of frustration. How could this be happening? She thought. Am I losing my mind? Her hands gripped the window sill tightly, shifting the thick layer of dust that coated it. She turned around and quickly surveyed the bedroom. The classroom she thought she had seen had completely disappeared, and Lily was nowhere to be seen. She went to open the door to the hallway, only to find it had locked behind her. She noticed something dark crawling under the door. Cautiously, she bent down to see several small, dark spiders entering the room from a crack beneath the door. Before she had time to think, all of the lights went out.
Not Weirder says. She backed away quickly from the door and stumbled her way to the left side of the room. Despite pitch black enveloping the area, a darker hue managed to spill in. The spiders pulsated towards Ella. In desperation, she resorted to the power of her stomps to overcome the critters. Thrusting her shoes into the void underneath her, Ella was met with not a thump, but deafening silence. She went straight through her target, one foot now sinking through the floor. Caught off balance, a blackest black began to surround her, and within no time she found herself in yet another unfamiliar room.
Whir 320 says, Ella stood there staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how she had gone to stomp on spiders and instead ended up in a different room. She was scared for now she not only had to find Lily, but also had to find out how to get out of the mansion without it dumping her in a random room. As Ella stood there, lost in thought, she realized that her eyes were not adjusting better to the darkness, but instead there was now an orange glow coming from under the door that appeared to be getting brighter. Seeing no other option, Ella walked across the empty room to the door and held her breath, listening for anything on the other side. After waiting for what she thought was 30 seconds, she slowly opened the door and prepared herself for whatever was on the other side.
Screamin' Steveolution writes, she knew this place. She knew the color of the garage door, the smell of the garden. She knew why there was an odd-colored board on the patio in front of the house. She even knew the song on the radio, barely audible in the background. She recognized all these things, but it wasn't right. She shouldn't be here. No one should. This place wasn't supposed to be here anymore. She shouldn't be here. But someone else was here too. She could see them flash by the front room, going towards the hallway through the window. The blood in her ears felt like crashing waves. She shouldn't be here. But she'd already reached for the handle and stepped into the hallway again. Then that voice, "Hello, dear. You've gotten so big. Come sit with me." The door slammed shut behind her.
I like how Grandma came back and there's no way they could have known
Yeah,
we talked to Grandma before. That's great. Emo Seal says she found herself face to face with a huge aquarium pressed against the back wall of the room she had stumbled into. The inner surface of the glass was coated with layers of algae, save for an oval in the center that had yet to be taken over by the sludge, and gave a view into the cloudy water. Ella turned and fumbled with the door handle in the sickly green tingled low light when she heard the voice again. "Now why would you want to leave when we're finally together again, dear?" Ella snapped to look back at the room, and she couldn't see anyone through the darkness. The aquarium was the only source of light, the only thing she could clearly make out, except for a small stool placed directly in front of it. Her eyes widened as she stared into the tank, her feet carrying her closer to it almost against her will, as she watched the shadow move within. Light caught against scales, against bulging eyes, then a mouth bubbled open and the voice boomed inside her skull. "I told you to sit!"
Risky Crispy says, Ella reeled at the shock of another voice echoing within her own head. As she scrambled backwards in pain and distress, grasping from the door once again, she could no longer tell if the pounding she felt was this disembodied voice rattling her brain, seemingly trying to burst out of her head, or the creature slamming itself again and again against the glass aquarium, determined to burst free of its confines. As she finally managed to snatch the handle and swing the door open, so too did the reptilian creature destroy its prison and lunge at her amidst a shower of shattered glass and dirty water. The single voice that had invaded her thoughts was now one of a dozen, all of them screaming at her with such vitriol they clouded her vision as she ran blindly through the darkened maze of corridors. Only when the creature was close enough that it was preparing to lunge did one voice rise above the rest, crying, "Stop!" But this time it was clear she wasn't the only one with an unfamiliar sound in their head. Her pursuer came to a screeching halt, as if a leash had been tightened around its throat. Not only did the beast also clearly hear this new voice, but it appeared as if it held some kind of power over the ferocious being.
Shifty Disco writes, Ella exhaled, looking around at the puddles and shards of aquarium glass surrounding her, as silence filled her mind. The idea that everything she faced, everything ahead, could end was momentarily so exhilarating that she let out a small laugh. This seemed to break whatever thrall she had over the scarly creature that stood before her, and Ella's resolve and body fell to the floor as it started lumbering toward her again. Without the choir of voices in her head, the "stop" she let out did nothing, and she barely dodged the lizard's charge, nearly cutting her arm on a number of glass pieces piled up in the corridor. Her close call seemed to awaken something, as a crescendo of wails and screeches built up again, and she locked eyes with the beast, trying to decipher what its expression was, and how she could possibly figure out how to defeat something so clearly bound to the same forces that have been torturing her.
Interrata says, Ella turned around, facing the beast. The lizard crept closer, the muscles in its legs pulling taut with each step. Hot breath swept across her face, her palms behind her searching for ground but finding only glass. Glass! Her eyes went wide as she blindly clutched a shard. And was the lizard smiling? As the lizard opened its mouth, the hallway lit up with a canopy of screams. Some Ella's as she swung her hand forward, some the lizard as it writhed back with the semi-blue glass pierced its eyeball. Ella pushed off the ground and ran past the creature.
The spoopy Ethan says, the screams of the monster, a mixture of pain and rage, echoed behind Ella as she ran. She was dimly aware that her palm was bleeding where she'd gripped the shard of glass, leaving a trail the lizard could easily follow if it could overcome its outrage at its prey biting back. She realized she couldn't hear its cries anymore. She didn't think she'd covered enough distance to lose the sound yet, which means it must have been stopped. And she didn't know if it was good or bad. Her breath was getting ragged. She wouldn't be able to run for much longer, but slowing down wasn't an option. Clutching her hand to her chest in the hope that her shirt would be enough to staunch the flow of blood, she forced her legs to keep moving.
Forest with woes?
With 2 R's.
2 R. Oh, okay. Forest with 2 R's. That makes so much more sense. Right. Thank you, Haley. Ella's next few steps down the raggedly aged and seemingly endless hall weren't graceful, but she was making forward progress, and that's all that mattered. As her breath slowed and her senses came back from their adrenaline peak state, she realized the answer was a lot more obvious than she had given herself credit for earlier. If she hit the lizard thing with her car, it would put an end to it. In the rare chance it didn't, she would just back up and do it again. Haha, roadkill. She hurriedly stuck her bloodied hand into the largest pocket of the military surplus jacket she was wearing. Wrong pocket. Again. Wrong again. Mental note, burn stupid thrift store jacket. Finally, she found what she was looking for, the jangly weight of her old car keys. She clutched them tightly and picked up the pace.
Hazard says, but with each stride, a new doubt wedged itself into Ella's plan. What if the lizard wouldn't go down? What if she missed? What if the car stalled? She hadn't had it serviced in years. Such a real thought. The last thing she needed was to get the creature in the prime ramming position, only to give it a little love tap with her bumper. Vague memories from an old biology class swarm around the back of her mind. Lizards were some of the most intelligent and physically well-rounded cold-blooded creatures. If Ella made a wrong move, she would practically offer herself up on a silver platter to something that was probably smart enough to know it. And as she came to the door, one thought stamped all the doubts away. The creature had to get lucky every time. Ella just had to get lucky once.
Hinton Alex says, Ella knew she couldn't continue worrying. She slowly inhaled and wrapped her fingers around the doorknob. With a slight push, the door began to open.
Taco writes.
Oh boy.
Taco writes, the door swung hard against the wall, startling Ella. She scrambled for her phone's flashlight, dropping it as her instinct screamed that someone or something else was in the room with her. She grabbed her phone just as the shadowy, inhuman figure moved toward her.
Betty Amaru says, through trembling fingers, she tried to turn on her phone's flashlight, but instead managed to open the camera. Before she realized her mistake, she aimed what should be the light at the figure in front of her. Cursing her blunder, Ella desperately tries to correct, but not before she accidentally captures a photo of the creature's haunched feet. She sees them in front of her with the flash of the camera, but is not prepared to open the image. Ella thinks to herself, I really need an exit.
Starkiller says, frantically glancing around, Ella notices a small door she did not see before. She quickly dashes through, fumbling slightly with the doorknob on the way, slamming the door shut behind her. Ella hears the patter of feet following just outside. Slowly, deliberately, the footsteps fade into the darkness. Ella breathes a quiet sigh of relief to herself. This time, she makes sure to turn on her phone's flashlight before looking over the new room she has found herself in.
Bob Backwards writes, Ella's eyes take a moment to adjust to the darkness of the room. Her phone's flashlight darting around hurriedly, searching for anything of familiarity. The beam of light hits something that she immediately recognizes, herself. A tall wooden mirror stands in the middle of this dusty, creaky, ominous room, with blankets covering all the rest of the furniture found around. Ella approaches the mirror, squints, goes to wipe away a smudge from a strange dark... Is that ichor?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Sure.
In the corner, when bzzz, her phone goes off in a startle. She breathes the first sigh of relief in a while when she eyes that the text is from Lily. The message simply reads, "It's found me." Ella whips her head around, turns back to the door, and screams out, "Lily, I will find you!" as she rushes out of the room in a renewed sense of urgency and heroism. Yet somehow her reflection remains, staring back at her with a coy grin.
Merriam-Webster defines ichor as the fluid that flows like blood in the veins of gods.
Oh, nice, Bob. Fred Nightloaf says, Ella rushed back into the hallway, trying to retrace her steps and attempt to quickly reunite with Lily, but something wasn't right. The dusty old hallway has been confusing to navigate before, but now it has seemed twisted, mirrored in odd locations. Wrong. Portraits on the wall seemed to melt in their frames, but there were no visible windows, and it was far darker than before. This wasn't the hall she had entered the room from. A sense of dread rose in Ella's mind. How could she find Lily if she couldn't even figure out which way she came to get here? The hallway now seemed impossible to navigate. Any door out was sealed shut, and she couldn't retrace her steps to the prior room. In fact, that door had simply vanished. She tried more doors, but none of them would budge, and walking in the dark for what felt like minutes seemed to get her nowhere. Frustrated and exhausted, Ella sat on a nearby chair, one she was sure she had passed multiple times. Maybe Lily had sent another text? Ella looked at her phone, a light smear on the strange ichor from the mirror across the screen. But only Lily's prior message remained. It really had found them. Ella knew she needed to find Lily fast. You know, this will all be a lot easier if you let me handle it, came a familiar voice from behind her. Her own voice.
Brain Freeze says, in a moment of pure fight or flight, Ella leapt up from her chair and twisted her body around to look behind her, holding her phone like a baseball bat in a weak attempt at a makeshift weapon. Who said that? Her voice quivered. You don't recognize me? The voice laughed. Ella turned her phone screen to face the voice, illuminating the dark figure that was somehow just a few feet away, where the chair once stood. The uncanny fear moved from a weight in Ella's stomach to a shiver in her spine as her eyes began to focus and she realized that in front of her stood her exact doppelganger, but not quite. The Ella double was more hunched over and her oily hair covered the sides of her face, and yet she exuded confidence that both scared and comforted Ella. The labyrinthian hallway that just moments ago captured all of her attention became an afterthought as the new threat took a step forward into the light and spoke. I said, this will be a lot easier if you let me handle it. Do you want to find Lily or not?
Foul Howl writes, Ella stood for a moment to soak in what her unsettling doppelganger had just asked. Had that been the voice she had heard earlier in the mansion? Still reeling with questions on what stood before her, she put her phone back in her pocket, stood up straight, and attempted to match the assertive tone of her strange clone. All right, we'll do it your way. How do we find Lily? Ella commanded. Her mimic smirked and slowly pointed back into the labyrinth hallway Ella had just come from.
Perfect.
Super mediocre man says, Ella froze. The burden of a chilly breeze bears her back towards where she came from. Her spine starts to sprawl. She looks back at a replica for confirmation. The mimic's finger remains steadfast, her smirk unwavering. Ella finds little comfort in her own face. The breeze brushes through the atrium. The mansion howls. Whatever, Ella says to herself. Hesitantly, she lifts her feet and lets the enigmatic wind escort her, while the company slowly follows behind.
Captain Cobblepot writes, as the enigmatic wind sweeps her deeper into the atrium, the glass shimmers with an eerie reflection of a figure she once intimately knew. The spectral silhouette approaches faster and faster. As Ella nears the glass, it begins to slowly liquefy, her replica now fading away, the spectral ominously converging. The glass begins to wrap around Ella, consuming her into a reflection of her own world. The spectral beings begins, I assume, to call out.
Mike Lynch writes, a furious...
Tinnitus?
Tinnitus? Okay. A furious tinnitus. Ben Google this. Tinnitus rips through Ella's head. The spectral calls. It looks to be screaming at her, but there is only the buzzing sound burrowing deeper into the center of her. She sees the atrium whirl and fold in on itself in a manner of horrible colors and feels the same change happening to her as well. The spectral takes a hold of Ella's ear to shout directly in it, to make her understand its tiny howl.
The 10,000 stars says, silly girl, the voice whispered, giggling. Silly, silly, silly girl. The atrium, I like how the atrium was no more, and Ella could now only sense herself in the spirit pounding itself against her eardrum. How naive she had been, fancying herself some sort of explorer, some Magellan of the macabre. Magellan of the macabre. In this endlessly twisting blackness, she saw herself for what she truly was, a mere child hurling stones at a hornet's nest. How are we going to wrap this up in 3 sentences?
Piece of
Let's
cake.
see.
Dybol says, the spirit's grip was now wrapping around her mind like some ghastly rider clutching at the reins. Arms no longer hers. Feet unmoving while her mind screamed to run. 1,000 years of ice and fear ran through her veins. The spirit cackled and spoke to her one final time.
Truffaut writes, "In 1 minute, you will feel maximum pain. Yes, child, we shall min-max your pain." The spirit shrieked, while rendering flesh from limb metaphorically. The girl was no more. She suffered the worst fate of all. She was min-maxed alive.
The end.
Wow. Hitmonchan in chat says, "How am I going to sleep tonight?" That is.
Slushy Fun said this really in the chat. It's like everyone wanted to write the climax, so it's all climax. It's so true.
Yeah, awful lot of doorknobs happening in this.
Lots of new rooms.
I want to know what happened to the grandma, and I want to know what happened to the lizard. I hope they found each other.
I love that the grandma, it got kind of mixed up and she became a lizard, or maybe it was doing a grandma voice, and who knows?
Yeah, tough to tell. Beautiful. Thank you to everybody who submitted to the scariest story I've certainly ever read. Thank you in the MinMax Discord for keeping that thing lively. Haley, thanks for arranging the whole thing.
Thanks. I'll start it earlier next year.
Yeah, like June, I guess, would probably be a good time.
Yeah.
It's tough to pass around. All right, Janet, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, it was fun.
Any other highlights from the Game Awards that we glossed past for you, or like the social scene? You got brunch with Kit and Krista. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I did. Check out. I think their vlog is already up. I'm in there briefly, but
nice.
Yeah, it was cool seeing them. I think that was most stuff. Yeah, I was really just seeing a lot of people. Steve Taylor, everybody coming into town. But yeah, it was good. So thank you for. Also, thanks to the people that came up and talked about liking my work on MinMax.
Ooh.
A few people too were like. One person specifically, I can't remember their name, but they had said, I like you on MinMax and Kind of Funny, but I'm, tell Ben I'm giving it to MinMax.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go.
That's all I ask, is that you drag Kind of Funny down to
one
hell.
listen at a time.
That's right. Sweet. All right, Haley, thanks for being here. Everybody, thanks so much for watching or listening to Party Chat. We appreciate it. This is the last one of the year. But hey, we'll be back in 2024. And just a reminder, we have a big New Show Plus poll up right now. If you're jumping in early, you can vote. The poll closes at midnight. So let us know what new show you want us to create before the end of the year here, and then get ready for a bunch of Game of the Year debates here at MinMax. But it's been a great year. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
That was a long one, but nice to do a long one at the end of the year here. Let's send you over to... I should have sent you to Kind of Funny after bashing him, but I guess I'll send you to Nextlander instead. Thanks so much, Bob Truffaut, Hazard, Bob Mack, B Wood, Kyle S, Mr. Jack-O-Lantern, Backlog Busters. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. Bye.